Thank you for joining the Empowering Women Fund workshop. The session today is to share learning and insight from the Empowering Women Fund grant scheme and hopefully provide some practical tips for future funding applications. Our agenda today is firstly looking at top-level learning from the Empowering Women Fund. We'll then move on to some top tips for funding applications. We'll look at planning applications in more detail, especially touching on monitoring and evaluation, and we'll finish with looking at some funding resources. I'll now hand over to my colleague Emma, who will talk about top-level learning.
Hello, I'm going to start the session by explaining some facts and figures which relate to grant applications received by Solace. We're currently in the process of analysing the data of all applications, especially the COVID-19 impact on women and women's organisations. We will share that information hopefully in the new year, but for now I'm just going to give you the top level learnings. We received 613 applications in total, with the top 3 focus areas being mental health, well-being and confidence building. Number 2 top focus area was domestic abuse, with number 3 education and employment support. As you can see, we received the majority of applications from England, with the total being 521. Northern Ireland 43, Scotland 49, with the total being 9.6 million. As I mentioned previously, we had 613 applications in total and only able to allocate 300,000 for funded projects. This was the reason we were not able to fund. Number 2, missing a clear explanation of the impact of the project. A large number of applications only spoke about the impact of COVID-19, but did not give the actual impact of the project and the change it would make.
Number 3 is outputs and outcomes were not fully clear. I'll talk a little bit later about how to present clear outputs and outcomes, but for the Empowering Women's Fund, a large number of very good projects didn't get higher scores in the assessment process due to not demonstrating clear outputs and outcomes. And finally, number 4, budget. A number of applications did not give a clear explanation on how the budget items link to the activities. Top tips. The following is advice that we can give based off our own experience and from the grant scheme. Firstly, planning is key. The more clearly you plan what you would like to do and how you will carry it out, the easier it will be to present your project and its aims and objectives. The following are really important to consider. Why? Have you identified a need for this project, and why is your project important? What? What are you going to do and what will happen as a result of it? Who? Who are your direct and indirect beneficiaries? Where? Where will the project take place? Is there anything specific about this area that makes your work a funder's priority? And when? When will the project take place? Make sure that the timelines are achievable based on the funder's guidelines and the turnaround of the grant application, and also take into consideration time required to recruit and induct staff. Secondly, less is more. Competition for funding is currently very high, and we feel it's better to focus efforts rather than go for everything. Do also try and get in touch with funders to see if the fund is a right fit for you.
Stories and examples. Tell your story and where you have been and where you want to go. Don't forget to tell the funder about your experience and track record. Try to avoid using jargon and acronyms and make sure you stick to the stated word count in the application form. It always helps to double check your budget so it adds up correctly and make sure that you have included all the supported requested documents. Be clear on the budget items you are requested so funders understand wherever items are core cost or project cost. We recommend applying for no more than half your current yearly income, as funders want to ensure that you have the track record to handle the grant.
So next we'll look at planning applications. We feel it would be helpful to touch on monitoring and evaluation when planning applications. As funders, it really helps to know how progress will be tracked and how impact will be measured. This helps us know that systems are in place to assess whether objectives have been achieved, and there is a way for the grantee to learn from the work and adapt accordingly. Regarding our grant scheme, we also felt that it helps feed into wider learning for the sector. When thinking about planning your evaluation and learning, our own evaluation team have the following framework. Step 1. Clarify your current position and your ultimate goal. This involves asking, where are we now and where do we want to be? What are the issues we are seeking to address? What are the big changes we want to make through our project? Step 2. Set out the outcomes you want to achieve. Ask yourself, what will be different for the people we work with if we are successful? What other changes will be seen? Step 3. Plan the activities needed to achieve your outcomes. This involves asking, what will we need to do to achieve changes? What activities or services will we provide, and why do we think they will work? Step 4. Set out your milestones. This involves asking, how will we know we're on track? What will be achieved in 6 months, 12 months, and possibly 2 years' time? Step 5. Plan what evidence you will collect. Ask yourself, how will we know we're reaching our milestones or our outcomes, and show others we've reached them? What are our indicators of success? And finally, step 6, build in time and processes for reflection and learning. Ask yourself, how will we learn from our project's journey? How will we share our learning with others? When actually writing your application and your project plan, it helps to think about the following. Firstly, your outputs. These are the tangible results of your activities. Outputs are a quantitative summary of an activity. For example, if you are providing workshops, your output might be 100 women attended 20 workshops on employment support. Outcomes. These are the benefits that your project or intervention is designed to deliver, the change that occurs as a result of the activity. For example, improved confidence in training participants. And finally, your indicators. These are ways of knowing that change has happened. It's the data that helps you assess your impact. It's important to think through your indicators and look at whether they can tell you whether the outcome has occurred, and if so, by how much. So, for example, the level of satisfaction with the workshops, or the number of women who have secured employment after the workshops. As a recap, when planning both your project and your application, it helps to have a plan, to think about the key questions you want to explore to monitor your progress and assess your impact, and to think about the data that you will need to help you assess your impact, and also giving yourself time for internal reflection. In terms of how to capture evidence, you may want to use the following. Firstly, interviews. Interviews are usually conducted on a one-to-one basis, but can be with more than one person, for example, a group of co-workers. You may want to use questionnaires or surveys. Written questionnaires can provide both quantitative and qualitative information and can range from formal tick boxes to feedback sheets. Focus groups. A focus group is a qualitative approach that may be useful for gathering information from a group of people on a predetermined list of topics or questions. Focus groups may also allow for observation of group dynamics and the way participants respond to particular issues and debates. And finally, observation. Observation involves the evaluator being present, watching events and actions, and writing down, filming, or recording what happens. It's an important method in the professional evaluator's toolkit and can anchor other kinds of data in an accurate understanding of the realities of project delivery. However, it can be a difficult method for self-evaluation. As Emma has said previously, through the Empowering Women Fund, we received a huge amount of excellent applications. What we did notice, as we've said, is that sometimes there was a little bit of lack of detail in terms of the outcomes or the outputs or the indicators that were on the applications. So it wasn't always easy to tell what the impact would be and how the impact would be shown. So what we've done here is just give some examples of outputs and outcomes and show, firstly, number one, a clear output that is maybe a bit weaker, and then number two, a stronger output that really shows detail and really can tell the funder what the impact will be. Same with the example outcome here as well, The first one does tell us what the outcome will be, but the second one has a lot more detail in it, and actually probably could have more detail there in terms of maybe the amount of women or the percentage of women. And finally, an indicator. Again, the indicator shows is kind of the evidence to show the impact. So again, we have an indicator here that does show how impact will be shown, but isn't that clear, whereas the second one has a lot more detail. If you'd like to look at more information about outcomes and indicators, or to think about planning your applications, please do have a look at these 3 websites, which are very helpful. And we can maybe also send you some documents from our own evaluation team that have talked about monitoring and evaluation. I'll now hand back over to Emma, who will talk through funding resources.
So I'm going to end the session talking about the funding resources that we're able to offer. From New Year, we will be offering one-to-one sessions with the Elaborate team. This will be an opportunity for you to get some advice on either filling out a current application, or if you're looking for funding opportunities. If you send us an email, we'll send you a link to book in a meeting, or you can sign up to our monthly newsletter, which will have details on grants news and new funding opportunities. I find it really useful to sign up for the Grants Online newsletter, which comes out monthly and gives a very long list of all the current grant funds that are opening. Also, another one to check is your local authority. All local authorities run small grant schemes, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. So it would be worth doing a Google search and finding out who the contact is and having a phone call. The fourth one is Twitter. Twitter is a really good source for following not just Grants Online, but all funders that you're interested with, because they will share details of up-and-coming grant funds before it's actually on their website. The other is the research funders, and if you find that you're interested in one of the grant schemes that are opened, I would suggest that you request a phone call. If you don't fit into their criteria, you will find they will often signpost you to more relevant opportunities.
So thank you very much for joining us today. For those in the live session, we'll now go to the question and answer. For those who are watching the recording, if you are interested in getting in touch and learning more, or have any questions about the presentation, then we'll include contact information below this recording. Thank you very much.